Before everything, and I'm sure our audience wants to know, give me your vision of what's really going on,
Yeah.
your analysis and your gut feeling as an Iranian.
The United States and Israel started attacking Iran by assassinating the supreme leader and the commanders in chief. They thought that they would collapse, that could collapse, because in the mind of Israelis, let's put it this way, Mossad and Israelis thought that everything is dependent on the supreme leader of Iran. They have not a little bit of understanding that the system doesn't work this way. We've been talking about this for such a long time, that the system is not dependent on a particular, even if that's the supreme leader of Iran. That was hugely, in my opinion, a miscalculation on the part of the United States and Israelis. And Donald Trump, it seems that he was bought in this sort of concept that they can collapse the Iranian government, the Iranian state, by killing the supreme leader of Iran, which was, they were talking, the propaganda machine was talking about that he's in the tunnels, he's going to Moscow, he's not inside Iran. He was working in his office when he was attacked. That shows how courageous are Iranians in this fight. They're not afraid of anything. Even the supreme leader of Iran was a significant sign for the people, for the government, for those people who are in the military in Iran, in the intelligence, to understand even the supreme leader is sacrificing his life. He's prepared for everything to fight back. I think that was a huge miscalculation. What has happened? They started with that, and then the things that they see, what is happening in the Arab states in the Persian Gulf. Iran started attacking all the US bases. They have almost destroyed most of the bases in the Persian Gulf. And the attacks are getting heavily to Tel Aviv, to Jerusalem. And so far, they couldn't fly over the airspace of Iran. All the attacks were from the outside. They couldn't invade the airspace of Iran. It's all propaganda. If the United States is controlling everything, it's all propaganda. And they're using drones to attack particular buildings in Iran. They started with, the besiege, the police offices, all of that. They're attacking these sort of buildings right now in Iran. But they're running out of targets because they don't have intelligence on the ground in Iran, because the intelligence was rooted out in the aftermath of 12-day war. That's why they're so blind in their attack on Iran. That's why they're killing children. They're killing civilians as we talk, Pepe. That's the objective, the main objective of Donald Trump and Israelis. They have failed in achieving their objective in Iran. And this is a war of attrition right now in the mind of those people in Iran. And they see it's a long war, and they want to see how prepared the United States is to go that far. And I don't see Israel sustaining. Israel going to be devastated as an outcome of this war. And the United States, their airplane, their fighter jets are not in the region right now. They put all of their fighter jets, they were in Jordan, some of them in the Arabian Sea. Right now, they moved all of them to Cyprus, and Iran is attacking Cyprus. They're going to move from Cyprus to somewhere else. This is my understanding of the current situation so far. Let's switch to you. What is your understanding of the situation?
Your analysis is fundamentally correct, Nima, and with the key details especially. Let's get deeper into it in terms of the Iranian response, which was stunning. And it's no wonder that my first column, which today is Tuesday, right? My first column came yesterday, I think. I don't know.
Monday. You're getting to Tuesday. Here is Monday. Yeah.
Because I am in Asia, I am way ahead of everybody.
I understand.
So, I'm way ahead of the West. Anyway, so it's 9 p.m. here in Southeast Asia. Anyway, the first reaction was, how could they react in half an hour? And in fact, it was between 25 minutes to 45 minutes. Essentially, in half an hour, the response was already online and in the air. Because, among other things, and this is something I confirmed with our friends in Tehran, Ayatollah Khamenei himself had already in detail organized the replacement of key commanders and even himself in 4 different layers. So this reveals a degree of minutia and extreme sophistication. And of course, because everybody expected this war to happen. Iran was ready not since the past few days. Iran has been ready since the 12-day war. They learned from their mistakes in the 12-day war. And the first lesson, objective lesson, is they had everything in place to start the counterpunch half an hour after the first attack, which happened to be, obviously, we are dealing with those apocalyptic genocidal fanatics in Tel Aviv. The only thing they know how to do properly is decapitation strikes. It's an obsession for them. And obviously, Neo Caligula, the megalomaniac psycho with a gigantic Narcissus complex, he went along. And obviously, even if he sold the fiction to global public opinion that the United States did not start this war, and this was repeated today by that clownish king of the push-ups, the secretary of the eternal forever wars, Peter whatever, he just said, we didn't start it. Of course, motherfucker, you did, alongside Netanyahu. So this was a joint operation that was discussed for weeks, and especially these past 2 weeks where there was a negotiation going on, and the negotiation was successful according to the Omani foreign minister. So we had a deal on the table. Everybody knows that. Even American mainstream media now, the past few days, they are reporting that the deal was on the table. And this meeting on Saturday morning in Tehran around 9:30 with Ayatollah Khamenei and several of the top military leadership and Security Council was to finalize the details and then send it back to essentially Arakshi in Oman for the next probably final meeting indirect with the Americans, and the deal was practically sealed. But obviously, when we are dealing with a bunch of fanatical cowards, and that's what they are, they use that, okay, the same syndrome like the killing of Sheikh Nasrallah and the top leadership of Hezbollah. We got all of them in the same room. Let's kill them. Well, we can say that this may be a serious mistake on the part of the Iranian leadership to do this, and especially in the open and inside Ayatollah Khamenei's office. That's another story. Let's deal with the facts. They instantly created a martyr with a global appeal. Ayatollah Khamenei now is joining a lineage of martyrs, starting with Soleimani at the beginning of the decade, continuing with Nasrallah, and now with himself, Khamenei. This triad of martyrs, they are not only martyrs for the whole Shiite world all over the globe. The Trump 2.0 administration now is at war with the whole of Shiism. Even strands of Shiism which are not, I would say, they don't adhere completely with the Velayat Faqih system in Iran, the Khomeinist system in Iran. Example, Grand Ayatollah Sistani in Iraq, the top Shiite authority in Iraq. I followed Grand Ayatollah Sistani since the early 2000s, even before the attack on Iraq. I went to his office. Of course, for us foreigners, it's very difficult to talk to him, but I talked to his office in a side alley in Aviv with some of his top advisors immediately after the attack, the shock and awe in Iraq in 2003. And he is revered in the whole Shiite world as well, as much as Khamenei. Grand Ayatollah Sistani, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday he declared a fatwa in terms of honoring the memory of Grand Ayatollah Khamenei. And the fact that Qom in Iran and Najaf in Iraq, they have different interpretations, political interpretations of Islam, it doesn't mean that they were at odds. That's another story that I also followed for years. I even wrote columns comparing Najaf with Qom. Probably 10 people in the West would understand what I was talking about. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. Iranians know what I'm talking about. Iraqis know what I'm talking about. So now the whole Shiite world is in jihad mode. I would say that of nearly 2 billion Muslims all over the world, they are beyond angry with what happened, and there will be vengeance in several levels against okay, let's call them for what they are, the Epstein Syndicate. This United States Trump 2.0 fanatics in Tel Aviv combo is, in fact, okay, the short definition of this thing is Epstein Syndicate. Everybody's compromised, and the elites on both sides are part of it. And obviously, Epstein being one of those special assets of Israeli intelligence, he was the glue for this whole thing, which was not only American, was Atlanticist. There are several instances of Epstein syndicate activities across Europe. So this is it. They launched their war against Iran, and then we can go for zillions of reasons, quoting some of our friends like Professor Michael Hudson, who wrote a spectacular article in the past few hours about it. Basically, it's what he's been saying from the beginning, and this is I would say the essentially correct geoeconomic analysis for why this war needs to happen. There are many others. I would add, for instance, the connectivity corridor angle. This is something we can talk about later. But what Professor Michael Hudson is saying is an empire in a desperate state like the US, indebted to death with a debt they cannot pay, running out of time. The collapse of the dollar is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. It's already collapsing all over the world. Here in Southeast Asia, the dollar plunges every day. It doesn't plunge in China because it's pegged, and it doesn't plunge in Hong Kong because it's pegged with the Hong Kong dollar. Everywhere else here in Asia, the dollar is plunging. So, and they need badly Lebensraum. And yes, I am quoting the Nazis. They need Lebensraum because the only way they can more or less compensate for their declining powers is to annex territory and control natural resources, steal them, plunder them, kill people for it, which is exactly what they're doing. And Iran, of course, Nima, as you know and our audience knows, is the big, big prize. It always was, it is, and will continue to be. If this will never happen, but if the United States and the Zionist axis and the Epstein Syndicate would ever control Iran, would ever take over, would ever get their regime change, well, this means blowing up BRICS from the inside, blowing up the Shanghai Cooperation Organization from the inside, blowing up the axis of resistance from the inside, blowing up global South resistance against the empire from the inside. So, can you imagine? In terms of this fanatical mindset, this is beyond precious. So they had to go for it. Everything that is being said from Washington, from the Trump administration, by US mainstream media, by the industrial military complex, by think tanks, by academia, by all that bunch of cockroaches in the whole system. Our friend Ray McGovern qualifies as MISIMAT, the industrial military, congressional, intelligence, media, academia, think tank complex. Everything coming from them is bullshit because they cannot address the main issue. And if you read Professor Michael Hudson for 5 minutes, it's all there in his article, as concisely as possible. They need to destroy Iran because they need to control everything in terms of energy exports from the Middle East. And West Asia, of course, that's the correct terminology. And of course, this is going to be horrible news for China. So this is a war against China again. This is a war against the corridors of the Chinese nuke roads that go through Iran. This is a war against the north-south transportation corridor, Russia, Iran, India. That's the theme of my documentary that, I think we talked about it previously, which is already online on the site of Press TV. Please, all of you, if you are tired of war, if you're desperate, you're angry, go to the Press TV website, click on the documentary, The Golden Corridor, and you're going to see one of the key reasons of this war as well. The empire cannot allow 3 top BRICS to have a connectivity corridor across Eurasia, bypassing the Suez Canal, and of course, bypassing US control. So there are zillions of reasons for this war. And of course, from the point of view of those infrahumans in Tel Aviv and around it, of course, it's their dream, because then they have their free road towards Eretz Israel, Greater Israel, something that that stupid American ambassador Huckabee, he let the cat out of the bag. He was not supposed to say that, but he said it in the open. And now the whole planet now has confirmation coming from an American ambassador that what these bunch of infrahumans wants is Eretz Israel and control everything in West Asia. So take this as my very angry introduction, Nima. I could go on for a while. I am very, very angry for what's happening, because all of us, we knew this would happen. And all of us, now that we are right in the middle of it as independent analysts, we know why it happened. We know what we don't know, which is the auspicious aspect, is how it's going to develop. And all the surprises along the way that will derail completely this absolutely ghastly and demented project of destabilizing West Asia as a whole.
You've mentioned if they can achieve something in Iran, but the other side would be the reality, practically what is going on right now in the West Asia. The Americans are not defending Saudis, are not defending Bahrainis, because they're not capable of doing that. They're just, and their air defense system is not working anymore. They don't have it anymore. It's all depleted. And looking at the situation right now, because for such a long time, these Arab states have felt one way or another that the United States, the presence of the United States in their countries would guarantee, would support them, would help them to defend themselves against an imaginary, in my opinion, enemy. But right now, when they need something, the United States is not even capable of defending itself or Israel. All the United States is doing right now is defending Israel. And Saudis are just screaming, what is going on here? And how do you see the long consequence of what is going on right now?
Well, this is happening, Nima, because all these Arabs or Arabs, as they call it in the Beltway, they don't matter. They're vassals. We throw a few crumbs to them. We get their money. We install our military bases in their own sovereign territory. They cannot say anything about it. Gladly, they have us all across the Gulf. And when something really happens that would imply the United States of America actually defending its allies, it's right in front of us. They don't give a nothing. They don't care. The only thing that matters is, of course, the Epstein Syndicate. And these Arabs, come on, now you're on your own, suckers. Are you going to learn the lesson? No, they won't. The populations know the lesson. If you ask a Bahraini in Manama, if you ask a lot of people in the Emirates, even in bling bling Dubai, they know exactly what's going on. But obviously, when we talk about this beyond corrupt bunch of gangsters posing as the leadership of those petromonarchies, starting with MBZ in the Emirates. Well, Putin was on the phone with MBZ today. I'm dying. We are all dying to know what they really discussed. What came from the Russian Minister of Foreign Relations was a blah, blah, blah that doesn't mean anything. Diplomatic blah, blah, blah. They had to talk about serious stuff. And obviously, MBZ, who he may be a gangster, but he's not a fool. He's already certainly considering rearranging his security priorities. And that would mean very close Russian involvement, not with US anymore. MBS in Saudi Arabia is much worse, Nima, because MBS was plotting for weeks with the genocidal duo for an attack on Iran. This is already out in the open. It already leaked in the first hours, in fact, of after the decapitation. And obviously, you cannot trust MBS. First of all, because he's a coward. Second, another megalomaniac. That's why he gets along with Trump. Third, if he's left on his own, he's dead meat. Because the CIA can, I would say, in a matter of 20 minutes, they can provoke a coup in Riyadh and install their man. The CIA man in Saudi Arabia is there, Prince Nayef. Everybody knows that. So, and he's just waiting for the right moment where the CIA is going to put him in power. So there's not much MBS he can do. And on top of it, all his money is in London and in New York. So obviously he has his hands tied. And that explains, for instance, why he's trying to hedge. And theoretically, they are a BRICS member, but they're not. They're sitting on the fence. They cannot be considered a full BRICS member, not even a BRICS partner. They're not going to the BRICS meetings. So, so only in theory, they are a BRICS member. And now they can see that they are left absolutely alone to, okay, fry yourself as an egg on the desert, idiot. This is how important you are for U.S. national security. So many of these petromonarchies will take a few lessons out of it. Because they are fragile and because their leaders are a mix of bunch of gangsters, opportunists, and basically creeps, they won't do much. But maybe one of them who has a slightly more power and slightly better international arrangements, and that I'm talking about the Emirates, there will be a reconsideration, especially because Dubai as a business proposition from now on is dead. The Dubai business model expired this weekend. Dubai was based on two things. We are the number one glitzy money laundering machine in the world. Okay, this might continue. But if you want to live in Dubai, why would you want to live in that absolutely stupid, glitzy, fake, bling bling paradise? Tax-free, sunshine all year round, and security. What security? There's no more security. It's over. It's gone. So Western expats who are obsessed with security, they will leave Dubai. There's no question. And there won't be any new ones replacing them. Forget it. The poor people from South Asia, from Bangladesh, from Nepal, from Pakistan, these are the people that I usually talk to when I go to Dubai. I love talking to the immigrants. I love to talking to Sudanese guys, you know. So these are the best sources of information, what really happens in the Emirates. Because obviously they cannot go anywhere else, and because they are supporting their families because of their jobs in the Emirates, they will continue. But that's about it. Dubai as a paradise for Western expats, this business model is over. And that was a particular, I would say, this was a mini stroke of genius by the Iranians. A lot of Iranians do the Dubai-Tehran shuttle. As you know, this is when you are in the middle of the flight, you see Iranian women taking off, and you know, putting on their Gucci's and their Balenciagas, you know, to show off when they land in Dubai. That's a different story. Dubai is a key node of the Trump family dodgy operations. Trump coins, investments, lots of dodgy money that goes to the board of peace, also known as the board of war, hotel investments. So obviously, it's an attack, a personal attack by Iran on the Trump family's finances. This is the beauty part of it all. So obviously he's fuming, because his financial interests in Dubai are completely collapsing. But very, very important. Why the attack on so-called civilian installations in Dubai? Because they are not civilian anymore. Some of these places were housing American military personnel who were evacuated from the bases and were sent to hotels. So the hotels have to be bombed. And in the case of the Palm Jumeirah, which is a disgusting bling-bling so-called 7-star or whatever, it's a piece of shit. I know luxury hotels well. It's disgusting. It poses as a luxury hotel. They did not strike the Palm Jumeirah hotel. They struck a building adjacent to the hotel. Do you know why, Nima? Because it was a Mossad-run and installed call center, employing a lot of Indian workers, specialized in scams against Europeans in America. So this is a completely crazy story, but this is the real explanation of why not the hotel, but the building adjacent to the hotel was hit. So the Iranians had all this information. Of course, if you are in Tehran and you do the Tehran-Dubai shuttle, you know everything that happens in Dubai. And the leadership in Iran, the military leadership in Tehran, and the ruling classes in Tehran, they know everything that happens in Dubai, and many of them have money in Dubai. There's a lot of Iranian money in Dubai that can be used one way or another. The last figure we had, Nima, and this was a few years ago, $600 billion of Iranian money invested in Dubai, in everything you can imagine, shell companies, underground, you name it. So, you know, this can be used, and can be used by, of course, people who in power in Tehran as well. So, but the velocity of how all these things is happening is, today I could not even keep up, and I'm sure the same with you, with what was going on minute after minute. So now we're entering an acute phase already. So let's say if this is day 3, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, okay, we are on day 3 of the war, and we are already entering the acute phase. From now on, all bets are off, because we have 2 timelines in competition, and only one of these timelines can survive. The American timeline is already blown up because they were counting on a very short war. It's over. Forget it. Because the initiative and the control And the people who are dictating the timeline, they are not in Washington. They are in Tehran. This is, I would say, the number one mega lesson of the war so far. And that's what stunned everybody in the global, all over the global south, but also in the global north. So they are dictating the timeline. And obviously, because they have this genius idea of the decentralized mosaic, which is a fascinating concept, meaning all of you commanders, regional, provincial, you have the initiative. It's up to you to decide. And you can decide at the spur of the moment. You don't have to pick up a phone and call Tehran for anything. And it's working like clockwork. Perfect, So, of course, how this is going to evolve, and do they have the necessary hardware to keep this absolutely insane volley of ballistic missiles and drones day after day? Only on the first day, there were 1,200 ballistic missiles and drones. So in this day 2 and day 3, maybe even if it's around 700, 800, it's already massive. How long can they keep that up? We still don't know. So that's one timeline. And of course, we are starting to see little by little the hypersonics having skin in the game. We had just, I would say, a starter. During this week, we're going to have many more instances. In parallel, we have, of course, I would say, the interceptor drama. They are, Americans and Israelis, they are running out of interceptors in record time, and there are no extra interceptors coming from the US to replace them. So, okay, let's imagine if this happens throughout this week. And next week, there are no more interceptors. Then we're going to have what? Iranian timeline 2.0 being applied with hypersonic missiles at the choice targets in Israel. And once again, in what was not destroyed already in all those military bases, CIA installations, CIA underground cells, you name it. And of course, the US Navy, which of course, like the cowards that they were, they retreated. They retreated 1,000 kilometers from where they were. They are scared shitless. So now they are way there in the Indian Ocean. They were in the Arabian Sea, not too far from the Sea of Oman. Now they are in the southern Indian Ocean. That's very, very far away. So I would say that this week, things will come to a crunch. Which timeline is going to prevail? Or if the Americans start to they lost their balance completely. Can you imagine, Nima, when the Pentagon looks at a war theater and they see that they are not running the narrative and the timeline, which is exactly what's happening now, not to mention their bases are being decimated all over. There are a lot of people in the Pentagon who are pissed to death with the whole thing because they did not gain that. And of course, the Iranians, because they gained everything before, via Ayatollah Khamenei, via the leadership of the IRGC, and that translates into Secretary of the Security Council, Ali Larijani, saying and repeating it, there is nothing to negotiate. Of course not. They were negotiating until Saturday morning. They were on the table. They had a deal. And then they were attacked. And then they killed the supreme leader. What the hell are you going to negotiate after that? So that's it. We are entering it's crunch time. It's the chalk of timelines. And this is going to be solved this week, because next week, depending on how the interceptor drama goes, and Israel is nearly depleted, then the IRGC plan to transform a great deal of Israel into a giant parking lot will be in effect.